Welcome back to our walkthrough of the calendar of the saints. Today, January the 2nd, our saint for today is Gregory of Nazianzus, and this comes out of the resource Lesser Feasts and Fasts for our Episcopal Church calendar. And so before I give you a little overview of his life, let me read one of the scriptures that's attached to this day, and it comes out of the book of Wisdom, chapter 7, verses 7 through 14. Therefore I prayed, and understanding was given me. I called on God, and the spirit of wisdom came to me. I preferred her to scepters and thrones, and I accounted wealth as nothing in comparison with her. Neither did I liken to her any priceless gem, because all gold is but a little sand in her sight, and silver will be accounted as clay before her. I loved her more than health and beauty, and I chose to have her rather than light, because her radiance never ceases. All good things came to me along with her, and in her hands uncounted wealth. I rejoiced in them all, because wisdom leads them. But I did not know that she was their mother. I learned without guile, and I impart without grudging. I do not hide her wealth, for it is an unfailing treasure for mortals. Those who get it obtain friendship with God, commended for the gifts that come from instruction. So Gregory of Nazianzus is one of who are called the three Cappadocian fathers, along with Basil of Caesarea and Gregory of Nyssa. Nazianzus is a little town in Cappadocia, which is the inland region of what is now modern-day Turkey. And Gregory reluctantly became a priest and is known for writing much about the fact that during his time, this is in the 4th century, the mid-300s, at a time in which the church was just coming into its existence as essentially the state religion of what was left of the Roman Empire of that day and age. And he was watching, along with many others, that many of the people occupying the clerical offices were not doing it because of a call from God or from discernment of any kind, but rather for political gain and opportunity. And he lambasted those who were being called into the priesthood, and when he was called into it, basically tried to run and hide from being that. But ultimately his gifts won out. He was accepted, but then he went through a period in his life where many of his family, including one of his friends, Basil of Caesarea, one of the other Cappadocian fathers, died. And from that, it actually rejuvenated his spirit. He wound up becoming bishop of a little town in Cappadocia, which was, let's just put it this way, was a little bit of a hinterland town, but then ultimately became bishop on a much larger scene. Gregory of Nazianzus is perhaps most known to us, though, for being one of the great writers and preachers of his day and age. In fact, he was known in coming to Constantinople for giving 5 sermons which are considered to be some of the finest points of doctrine on the Trinity that are still in existence in the church today. What can we learn as lay people from the life of Gregory of Nazianzus? He was a man who lived 1,700 years ago in a far, far away land, and a man who had some wonderful training and style of leadership, but most importantly of all, what we can learn from him, despite the distance in time and geography and even maybe relevance as far as his position and status, is the fact that this was a man who believed first and foremost to place God above all things. His life was one, in spite of his academic and rhetorical excellence, he was a man who was faithful and devout in prayer. He was a man who, despite even when he was at odds with his friends, which he was for a long time with his dear friend Basil, was a man who also expressed deep loyalty and love for those who continued to bring the gospel to all corners of the world. Gregory is a figure who is a pillar of our understanding of church history, and I'm just barely scratching the surface in this video of what you can learn about Gregory of Nazianzus. He died in 390 after being the one who helped to convene the important Council of Constantinople and he retired from that council to finish his writing, but more importantly, to preach about the love of God that sustained him in all things. So on this day, we remember the life of Gregory of Nazianzus, scholar, priest, bishop, and lover of God, whose infectious love for the divine is something we can continue to learn from each day as part of our daily walk with God. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow for our next saint on January the 3rd. Take care.